think Mr Monbiot's views are well-founded, well-meaning, personal views, but if we're going to actually do anything as a result of these, we have to work more in partnership with conservation organisations to get some realistic outcomes. I think the uplands have to become a more integrated delivery system, but we still have to keep producing food. I'm absolutely confident that the food produced in the uplands is a vital part of overall food production. But at the same time, we have to consider ecosystem services and future income streams that may be coming from the uplands. So we haven't to discount anything, but currently what we need to do is build on what we already have and move forward from there.
He said that he only knows 1% of our things. Well, if he only knows 1%, and that's what he quoted, how can he become someone who is giving advice and people take on of our view of where farming is? You know, he's so far distant, but it is a general way of farming now has been that distance from the general public, hasn't it? It should be back to the schools. It should be a curriculum, I think, of, so people know from it. Food isn't grown on shelves; it's grown on land.
I think he's a very clever fella. I think he stands up for what he believes in and has a different conclusion than a farmer would fetch because he's going from it from a different standpoint. I think possibly food security may preclude some of his argument going forward when we're a hungry nation, but I've no doubt that he's a very clever individual who has a huge belief. I'd like to see the uplands, I'd like to see succession planning happening, I'd like to see a lot more share farming happening, I'd like to see people, possibly some of the subsidy, if we want to call it that, or some of the incentives to enable young people to get into a job, to get into upland areas and learn the traits and skills from this generation, because we're in danger of losing this opportunity.
Well, everybody has an opinion, don't they? It's his opinion. He's an ecologist, so we're obviously farmers. So there's two different sides. It would be nice if people could actually meet in the middle on some of these things and actually work together to maybe for the bet. Instead of just trying to score points and different things, to actually work together for the good of the environment. It's one of these things. His views, next week could completely improved and things like that. But what I thought was that, he said that it was quite favourable to sort of areas uplands being planted and areas being left for sheep and things like that. But that's what's happening under a lot of HLS agreements and has been for the past 20-30 years. So it is happening. Obviously he has his opinions, we have our opinions why there maybe isn't as much wildlife in the uplands. There's a lot of pressures on uplands. You've got tourism pressures on the uplands. You've got a lot more predators in the uplands now than you used to have. Not wolves, but different sorts of predators that take ground nesting birds. And that, you talk to a lot of farmers in there today, that'll be their common opinion of why there isn't as much wildlife maybe.